Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution. There are two ways to not see this invisible man. The best option is skipping the movie.
A movie even more empty than its title character.
Hollow is a good way to describe the screenplay as well.
Genuine trash.
By the time Hollow Man was half over, I wished I could have disappeared too.
It's a pretty hollow effort indeed.
Hollow Man is related to the man on the stair who was not there again today. How I wish he'd go away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
I'm Grove Street.
This week, we're diving into Hollow Man, one of the creepiest movies that I know of. Can't wait to get into this. As a reminder, we split this podcast up into two segments. The first half is spoiler-free. We run through some background, things to watch for in the film. We take a break, you go watch the film, and we come back and dive into all the things we just watched. And of course, the films we watch here are all going to be below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, both the critic score and audience score. So these are all going to be fantastic movies that everyone else has slept on for some reason or another. Grobe, you want to kick us into the description?
Rotten premise. The thought of human invisibility has intrigued man for centuries. Highly gifted scientist Sebastian Kane develops a serum that induces complete invisibility. His remarkable transformation results in unimaginable power that seems to suffocate his sense of morality and leads to a furious and frightening conclusion. Critics, 26%. Audience, 28%.
So this movie came out August 4th, 2000, and it opened up as the number one movie, as I feel like a lot of these films that we watch do. It trailed off a bit after that, but number one movie, knocking off The Nutty Professor 2. So that's no small feat. This is another one of these films that, despite not getting the critical respect or the audience respect, it ended up making a lot of people money. It made about $190 million. So by no means a flop.
And nominated for an Academy Award.
Nominated for Academy Award. We can get into this a little bit later, but I think obviously should have won. I mean, I'm just going to call it an Academy Award winning movie because that's what should have happened. And not only that, and perhaps more importantly, they took down 2 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards for this film. Favorite award. We got both favorite actor and favorite actress for Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth Shue in the sci-fi category. Well deserved. I think they were both awesome. And what more do you need to say? I guess we can get into. I think that the director Paul Verhoeven, this run of movies that this is sort of the end of is absolutely unbelievable. 1987, RoboCop. 1990, Total Recall. 1992, Basic Instinct. 1995, Showgirls. 1997, Starship Troopers. And then 2000 caps it off with Hollow Man. You can say what you want about Showgirls, but that's 6 movies. That run of 6 movies is absolutely unbelievable. Those are some of the greatest action films of all time.
And very rewatchable movies too. Like it's Starship Troopers or Total Recall or RoboCop, you can just always throw on.
Yeah, if I'm flipping channels, if that's still something people do, and any of those are on, I will probably watch all the way through to the end. It's like, oh, I had plans. I no longer have plans.
All like DVDs plans I had in college too.
Oh yeah, they're phenomenal films. This he's come out and said that this wasn't his favorite film to some extent, but I think maybe if he took another look at it, I think this is a highly, highly entertaining movie. The threads of these other movies showing up here, and like the technology and the serums and the machinery they have in the lab, it all feels very Paul Verhoeven to me.
I think it's very well directed. I think anyone who has problems with it might have problems with like the dialogue, the screenplay, but the actual, like the visual of the movie is in the storytelling of the movie and the pacing, I thought was just really, really well done.
I completely agree. I also think his sort of star power as one of these A-list directors really helped that for a movie that they put, 50 million of a $95 million budget into special effects, and this is 2000, so that's serious money. Usually when they do that, I feel like they try to play it safe a little bit in the movie to make sure that they get that money back. And they didn't play it safe in this movie at all. Like, they absolutely went for it. It's violent.
This is an R movie. Yes, it's an R movie.
They leaned into that R in a major way, in ways that I think if you didn't have a director with that pedigree, you never would have gotten away with this. And we would have had a lackluster, blasé film instead of this just awesome thing that we ended up with.
Did you see it in the theater?
I did. I remember seeing it in the theater.
So do I.
I was on Cape Cod. It's a great theater movie. It's a great summer movie, perfect summer movie, really.
I saw it at the Detta movie theater in Massachusetts. Yeah, I remember there as well. I just remember being like taken back. I didn't think it was this type of movie when I went. I thought it was a little softer, but it was not.
Yeah, they went for it and nailed it. I think they absolutely nailed it. I mean, obviously it's super creepy, but that's what it's supposed to be. That's what you're signing up for, it, and it delivers.
Outside of Hollow Man, what's your favorite of his other films?
It's probably a toss-up for me. Either, and these are two totally different films, which is why I just can't pick. It's either Total Recall or Basic Instinct, and those are sort of the two I feel like ends the spectrum on his movies. And probably it's like whichever one I saw most recently, I'd tell you that was my favorite. So right now, I'm most recently watched Basic Instinct, so maybe I'd say that. But tomorrow I'll watch Total Recall and tell you it's Total Recall. They're both just fantastic. Yeah,
mine's between two as well, but it's Basic Instinct and Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers is just
so good.
Just a joy to watch every single time.
So good.
Just squashing bugs. All right, want to get into Bolo?
Let's do it.
Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for Twinkies.
Oh, you picked that one. That was going to be my first one. And I think this is a repeat. We've had, I think we had Twinkies in Lake Placid. I want to say it was another.
Wow.
Bolo.
Yes. That's wow. 2 Twinkies. Okay.
Yeah. And multiple Bolo Twinkies here. This comes up, maybe an hour apart.
Well, now I'm going to be on the lookout going forward for all possible Twinkie Bolos.
I'm going to say Bolo Yo-Yo, which is also fun to say.
Very fun to say. Bolo signs on ceilings.
Fantastic. I'm going to say Bolo, a frozen tear.
Oh, my goodness. I can't believe you took that one. That's such a great Bolo. Bolo, Kevin Bacon Butt.
I will just ride the coattails on that one. Bolo, Kevin Bacon, CGI penis. It's hard to miss.
Bolo, Jay Leno audio of hosting The Tonight Show.
Ooh, good one. Great one.
Hold on. And I'm just going to piggyback that real quick. Bolo, later on, TV going off air when it's just like the snow.
Yeah, that's one of these things that I feel like we're getting close to the end of people having any idea what that even means.
Yep.
I will say Bolo Zoom, but before they figured out how to blur the backgrounds.
Would have been useful. Invisible biting.
Great one. And I'm going to take 2 things right here because you did earlier, so I feel like fair is fair. And these are 2 science things that are just awesome every time they show up in anywhere. But Bolo electromagnets and Bolo nitroglycerin. Wow.
Yep. Great picks. Bolo, a crass superhero joke.
It's a great joke. It is exactly what you want in a crass joke. And no one can deliver that joke better than Kevin Bacon.
Nope, absolutely not.
The joke he was born to say.
It's funny, right?
Bolo, a big gulp.
Bolo, a well-stocked lab kitchen.
Yeah, when you're that far below the earth, you really need those necessities.
It's very green in that lab kitchen.
You get no daylight, so you need your vitamin D from somewhere else. Bolo, Perfect 10 magazine.
Bolo, imprints on a chair.
I like that one. That one made me think. I was like, how did they do that?
Yeah, me too.
All right, this is my last one. I'm going to say Bolo really cool colored serums.
I mean, Ecto Cooler. That was
That
very
level.
cool. I'll finish with two here. Bolo groping and Bolo an unexpected face slap.
the groping too. When I mentioned to people that we were doing this film, that scene is without doubt the first thing every single person references when I tell them that I'm watching this film. Like, oh, the one with that scene, huh? The groping scene. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
So that once you see it sticks with you.
Scenes.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna finish with drink to pair with the movie.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm gonna go. I don't think I picked this before, but I'm gonna go with I almost made it for this recording, but didn't do it. A vodka martini, because you can see through it and it's way stronger than it looks.
I'm like, it's like we're one mind here. I just had an ice cold shot of vodka because it's ice cold, see through, and it'll fuck you up.
Yeah, it's powerful, and yeah, you can see through it.
There's a cocktail called the Invisible Man.
Yeah, I looked it up too.
It sounds disgusting. It's like gin, brandy, triple sec, ginger ale, and orange juice.
Yeah, I did that Google as well, and I didn't like the drink. I also found like a Invisible Manhattan too, but it was still just a stretch. So I think the right thing to do is just vodka, however you want to consume it. Just put no other mixers in there. And have a good time. All right, this is your chance to go watch the movie, have some fun, beware of a couple scenes, and we'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Ed. Your team's in early today. Something special going on? Sorry, Ed. You know the rules.
If we're gonna move forward, this is the next logical step.
Sebastian? Are you in here? So, what's it like being a ghost?
Ghost or dead, I'm very much alive.
You trust your eyes. You rely on your senses. You think you're alone. You'll never be sure again.
He could be here. He could be anywhere.
There's more to fear than you can see.
You have no idea how much fun this is.
Slept on Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties. Welcome back.
I feel like I need to take a shower after watching that. It was a very immersive, creepy. I say fun. I feel a little weird saying fun, but fun movie.
It's fun if you consider him just a monster. Like if it's just a monster slasher movie, then it's fun.
Right. And I think that's what this is. This sort of is one of these classic Universal style, like monster films, like the Wolfman, Dracula, Invisible Man. That's just one of these things. He is a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely a brutal movie. Didn't expect it when I went to the theater to be so brutal, but I guess we should have known based on the director.
Right. And it was also sort of a kind of mainstream movie too. And for this type of movie to be mainstream and make 100 million plus, it's tough to do.
I wonder how many other sci-fi horror movies have been first in the box office.
I don't know. It almost feels like it's like a film from another era. Like, I don't know if they still make movies with this budget, with this, violence and sex in it. It's not as much of a thing anymore.
It's think. Definitely another era, but like it's also definitely from the year 2000.
Yes.
This is one of these movies where this isn't a what was the snake movie?
Snake Eyes?
Not the other snake movie.
Anaconda?
Anaconda, yeah. This isn't a timeless movie. This is right on the money at the year 2000 with the music and the clothes and everything else.
That's a great point. And it's interesting because I feel like the year 2000 was a big year for time capsules. Like, I feel like probably more time capsules were made in the year 2000. I wonder how many of those include this movie. Because it really should.
I graduated high school in the year 2000. So yeah, time capsules were being thrown around everywhere.
I do hope that they put a DVD player in the time capsule along with the DVD, because if I already don't know what I would do with a Hollow Man DVD, I would have no means of playing that.
Yeah, you need the DVD player to do it. All right, let's start off with the draft. And we are lucky enough to be joined by our two interns who have been crushing it on social media. We have Virginia and Cai here. Stan is a lawyer, and he has a family, and I have a startup and a family as well with young kids. So we don't have a ton of time to promote our podcast, and these guys have been crushing it sort of behind the scenes for us. So excited to hear their take on the draft for Hollow Man.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It is standard practice that our guests get to go first. So
we can now actually say that now that we've had multiple guests, we can say this is how it actually works. It's great.
How it actually works. Cai and Virginia, who wants to go first for the first overall pick in the Hollow Man draft?
Okay, I can take it. First pick. I'm going to go with this line the moment Kane says, "It's amazing what you can do when you don't have to look in the mirror anymore." I was kind of like, that's an oh, wow kind of moment.
It's like, so good. So good. And I feel like they had that in the trailer. It was like, you know exactly what the movie is going to be about just from that line.
Chills.
Awesome pick.
Yeah. Our superlative was going to be favorite quote, and that was one of my top ones. So that's a great pick.
Definitely for me as well.
It's a little scary too. Just if you don't see yourself, then all of a sudden you can make any decision you want. It's terrifying.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great first pick. Cai, you're up.
I'm gonna just have to go with the audacity of that man. Consistently, every moment, everything he does, before being invisible, after being invisible, just the audacity of that man.
That's an awesome pick. My wife had a similar reaction. I asked her, we watched the film together, and we've seen it a number of times, but I asked her what her pick would be if she was drafting, and it was something similar. She was sort of like, I like the fact that he just dove right into this experiment without any fallback plan. She was like, that's something I would do. He has no plans for if it doesn't work, but just goes for it. And I feel like audacity is the perfect word for that. That is exactly what happened in this film.
He was calling himself God, like right from the get-go. He didn't need a plan because he never thought he could be wrong. And I was like, dang.
And then once he got it, he had the audacity to, once he cracked the reversion. Yeah. Once he cracked the reversion, he had the audacity to be like, I'm not done yet. I'm going to lie to the Pentagon. All right, Stan, you're up.
I kind of can't believe that I'm able to make this pick this far in the draft, but I'm going with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so perfect in this role. I thought that for like two main reasons. One, he's just so believable as being this just like uber creepy, the worst kind of person on earth. I completely believe that this is how he is now in real life. I've heard he's apparently a very nice man, very great to work with, but my Kevin Bacon is this man because of how perfect he plays this role. That's one. And then the other part is he has such a weird face that I feel like it's perfect for all the CGI scenes, because if it was just some other regular random guy, you like wouldn't pick up on the fact that in all the crazy scenes where he's sort of invisible and you see him in the water or the smoke or whatever it is. But here you're like, that is Kevin Bacon, because I know exactly what his weird face looks like.
It's such a weird, iconic face where, yeah, you could just have him like invisible with a little bit of mist over it. And you're like, oh yeah, that's Kevin Bacon's face.
Right. Exactly. So I thought they picked that just absolutely perfectly. And apparently he wasn't their first choice.
I think Kevin Bacon rarely is the first choice. A few people drop off and like, well, Kevin Bacon loves to work.
Yeah, right. Which is crazy because he has such a prolific career that you'd think he would have to be someone's first choice. But I guess they were looking at Robert Downey Jr. first, which I feel like he could have gotten the sort of smarminess down, but he has the wrong face. His face would not have worked.
He has smarmy, but a little bit likable. Kevin Bacon was just smarmy with no likability in this.
Yeah. Although I feel like the Robert Downey Jr. in the year 2000 was not the Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. He was still probably working his way back into America's good graces.
Sleeping in neighbors' houses and everything. Well, it's a great one. I can't believe that lasted. So I got back-to-back picks here. So I'm going to give my first round billing pick to the Academy Award nominated special effects of the movie. This lost to Gladiator that year, but it's crazy that the special effects of this movie were nominated for an Academy Award. And it makes sense. Like looking back on it now when they're bringing the monkey back and all the invisible stuff, apparently there was the budget of 95 million and 50 million of it was for special effects. And you can see that in the movie. It still holds up today.
Yeah, I had that next to my draft board. I thought the effects were amazing, especially for that time period. Like there are a lot of movies that came out around this movie that you go back and watch and you're just like, this is awful. But this movie, it really holds up. I mean, some of the body stuff is a little bit, you're like, but it's also pretty real. Like I feel like if you ever gone to one of those Body Worlds exhibits where they show you what the inside of a body looks like, this is pretty realistic. And then all the shots with the, like I said, sort of like the water and the smoke where he's like semi-invisible. Thought that was just so cool. And I think it should have won the Academy Award. Like if you're looking back on the effects in this movie and then Gladiator, like this is way better. I get that, okay, they made a Coliseum or whatever, but now that's, I don't know, you could do that probably on an iMac now, or, you know, it's like you could not do what they did.
Gladiator is like a template on Canva now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like a Instagram filter.
All right. I'll go back to back pick here. A bit of a reach, I think, but I'm a huge fan of easily understandable like science programs that result in like it's very explainable to the viewers where it says like unstable or stable, or it just has like just some balls that like they stretch a little bit and it's mainly just meant for the viewer. It's this like super nerdy thing that was just condensed into an easily digestible like font and sizing to just say like you did it or you didn't. Some other ones that I love in movie history: Independence Day, uploading that virus made it very clear for the audience. Weird Science, when they're making the girl, very obvious. Superman 3, Revenge of the Nerds, Mission Impossible, when that whole dangling scene, like when he was on the computer, it's very obvious what he's doing, even though it's a very intricate program. The Net had that as well. One of our first, it was our first one we ever did. And Enemy of the State as well. Like so much technology in Enemy of the State, but it was all very easily understood by the viewer.
Yeah, I like that too. And you left out one of my favorite movies that this reminded me of, Darkman.
Darkman, that's a great one.
That movie was just full of things like that. Where you're just like, yes, I get it, and I don't need to pay attention too much. This movie actually had a ton of Darkman. I assume they're homages. You can only assume because it's one of the greatest movies of all time. But like the lab space, sort of old warehouse lab space, the masks and the skin, and the sort of science experiment gone wrong that leads to somebody having just uncontrollable rage. All have to be Darkman references. But that's a great pick because I think that you don't want to be watching this movie and having to like crack a science textbook halfway through.
No, you don't want to see MS-DOS and C++.
I am gonna go with, for my next pick, the point of view shots that they dive into. It's sort of in the second act of the movie. It's really like the turning point when Kevin Bacon really flips from just being like an asshole to like a insane murderous psychopath. I think they used those shots so perfectly because this is a creepy movie. It's supposed to make you feel creepy. And those point of view shots, you're seeing through his eyes. It makes you feel like you are a creepy person because you're seeing through his eyes as he's doing these just like awful things. And I feel like that just adds to this just aura that the movie has. And I think they used that just perfectly.
Yeah, the POV scene in the neighbor's apartment across the way was just like, no, you're like, you feel like you're in control. You're just saying to the character, like, no, don't go in. No, she's in the shower. Don't go over there. And it just kept getting worse and worse until you're confronted with her, like screaming in your face.
Back to me.
Back to you.
Back around.
All right. I'm going to go with the how invisibility made everyone else an impossible contortionist. Like, I've made physical contact with another human being. Like that's not how touching someone in any capacity would work. But Suddenly, when you're interacting with an invisible object, your body can bend or move in ways. Your clothes go all over the place in ways that do not work naturally with when interacting with anything.
Yeah, I guess science doesn't apply once you're invisible.
So good. Yeah, it's another one of the maybe like a side effect that rubs off, I suppose.
When the rat in the very beginning of the movie was grabbed, I was like, that the way that body is bending, that just like what is grabbing this? Like I was like, I am uncertain of what is happening because that is the way it is bending makes no sense to me. And I was like, but I really hope that they keep doing this, and then they did. They kept it up, and I was like, thank you.
That rat scene was right at the beginning too. I was like, oh god, it's this kind of movie.
Yeah, if you don't know what you're in for, seeing a rat get crushed and still kind of squeal and then get it bitten by an invisible ape, then you know what you're in for.
Right off the bat.
It was kind of jarring. Like the bend, I was like, oh, the shape of that rat looks kind of comical now. And then it was like gore, and I was like, ooh.
That's a good one. All right, we're back. We're back to Virginia.
All right.
You got 2 in a row, a regular one and then a sleeper pick.
Okay, perfect. 2 in a row. First one, I am gonna go with for second pick, the scaring the kid in the car. I rewatched that like 3 times. I thought it was great. They were trying to show their mom, and she's like, "There's nothing there." When he whipped off his sunglasses, and I thought that was great.
That was so good. It was also, it's such a good scene, and I'm so glad they left it in there because it's a movie that's a little long, so you could easily see some editor being like, "That's an easy scene we could have cut," because it's sort of not connected to anything. But it's such a great scene. I feel like it like kind of shows a little bit of his sort of like playful craziness. It's also a great scene. I feel like I always like when he's wearing that mask and you can see through his eyes to the other inside of the mask. Those are or should be Academy Award-winning effects right there. But that scene was a great shot for that.
Did you guys see his costume for filming? It was like he's in like a Green Man suit with just that like mask over him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I would have loved to see that. I'm gonna have to look that up after this.
I know.
Yeah, this is one of these movies that I feel like if you could find the DVD, like I'm sure the little making of featurettes or whatever that they used to have on all those DVDs, they're probably awesome.
We should hunt one of those down.
They should bring doing that back.
Right? Like that should be when you flip on Netflix, it should be like other things, and it should have all the things that used to be on the DVDs. Like that should be on Netflix, and it doesn't make any sense to me why they're not, because that already exists.
Okay, and then for my sleeper pick, I'm gonna go with the character Carter, just because I could not throughout the whole movie figure out why he was let into this like secret government facility. I couldn't figure out what he was doing there. He brought his like bathing suit magazine into work, and I don't know, but something about him.
Yeah, he just reads porn and gasses up Sebastian all day.
It's like they did absolutely everything they could to make it clear that this is the dumbest, just like broiest guy ever. He's got the stupid, cheesy headphones around his neck. He's got his big gulp. Every single thing that guy does is that guy is a loser.
Right, and everyone else is in their lab coats. They seem professional. Just always kind of just standing next to them.
Yeah, it's like he just was there when they opened the lab. And like, okay, sure, yeah.
He's like a squatter in the lab from the last experiment that was going on.
Yeah, we're understaffed. We'll keep him.
He was brought in to be the original first test subject.
Yeah, this guy's expendable. That's a great pick.
So it's back to me now again?
Yep. Yeah, you got your sleeper here.
I'm going to go with how I didn't realize everyone had a last name until the credits. But before the credits started rolling, I was like, wow, it was really fitting that they were working for a secret government agency and no one had last names.
I don't know. I think I know Sebastian's. I don't think I can get anyone else's.
The only other ones that are ever they're indirectly mentioned are Linda's and Matt's, because you hear them trying to do their door.
Right.
The elevator door code. And I was like, okay, so they have last names, and it's like, and no one else did. And like even were showing their access codes, like it was all first names, and I was like, okay, yeah, no one has any last names. It's the government. They've taken their last names. I totally believe this. I buy into this.
this movie didn't get nominated for best screenplay. It got for best special effects. The character development on some of them might not have been what was expected.
All right. I'm going to go for my sleeper pick. I'm going to go with the fact that this movie was largely shot in chronological order. And I guess they did this because they actually blew up the lab at the end. So they had to do that last. But then they, for the most part, shot it in chronological order. And I just love that because in my sort of dumb brain, I just think that they shoot every movie in chronological order because that's how I watch it. That's how they shoot it. That's how the movie goes. So I like when movies actually do that so that it fits with how I think the movies are actually shot.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was shot chronologically. I know I think the one that broke that I realized movies aren't always shot chronological was Castaway. I know they definitely messed with the timeline on that one and shot some scenes first and others later because it jumped back and forth. But I'm just like you, just like, oh yeah, I assume they just shoot in their order.
Right, of course. Like, why wouldn't they? It's not like, I'm not thinking about the like location scout and the lighting and the time of, whatever. I love it. I love when things fit with the way my stupid brain works.
This is tough here. There's so many good ones. Just a notable pick that I'm not going to pick is Eureka moments. I really am a big fan of Eureka moments in movies. Like the Facebook movie has it. And this when it's like 4 a.m. and he's like, aha, I got it. And then he goes and smashes the keyboard like 5 times. And all of a sudden it was stable. But Eureka moments movies are great, but I'm not going to pick that.
You're an A to D guy.
A to D.
You don't need the B and C.
Forget the B and C. I'm going to say you said this a little bit earlier, but ways they use to show where Sebastian was in this movie. They use the mask. They have blood. They have water, steam, a fire extinguisher, burnt skin and clothes, the thermal glasses. So many different ways to show where Sebastian was. I mean, they probably should have used the glasses a little bit more, but other than that, they used their surroundings pretty well to locate Sebastian.
Yeah, I thought all those things were awesome. Every single time he showed up in one of those steam or the blood or the pool, whatever it was, I was glued to the screen. I thought that was super cool. I thought the goggles were also awesome. And I liked how he turned up the heat to sort of nullify the value of the goggles. Like that was really smart. That whole thing was just so cool.
Yeah, the bloody floor I thought would work if she only got behind her as well.
Yeah, it almost worked.
Almost worked.
And that blood when he's covered in blood was one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And the burnt skin, it was an interesting one because it was sort of like, oh, maybe they did just figure out how to make him not hollow anymore. You just zap him with some electricity. Like maybe that was the answer the whole time.
That was awesome. Thanks for joining us, Virginia and Kai, and look forward to having you guys on again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was great getting to pick some draft picks.
Yeah, honor.
Want to get to our superlative?
Let's do it. What do we have on tap this week?
Our favorite clue that Sebastian was evil. You want to go first?
I feel like I can't even say favorite because I feel just, again, wrong saying that this is my favorite clue about anything. But my favorite, I think, was him killing the dog for a couple of reasons. One, they clearly went out of the way early in the movie to show him playing with the dog. So he has a relationship with this dog. He's a dog guy. He's sort of into the dog. And then the just evilness takes over. And that's like an important thing that I think they show you, that this is something has drastically changed in this person. And that's sort of like an important switch that gets flipped for me. And then it's also just, it's one of those things you don't do in movies. You kind of never kill the dog. It's like fine to kill 100 people. But when you kill the dog, it's like, oh my God, this guy is evil. So this is I feel like a very intentional look. We're killing the dog. We're taking that leap here to show you how awful this person is.
Yeah, they were aware that like it was crazy that they actually went through the killing the dog, but they did it in a way where it was only the thermal vision that you could see it. Like they disguised a little bit. It's almost like Kill Bill in that the Crazy 88s with a bunch of of them dying. They made it black and white so that it wasn't too much gore. It didn't hit you the same way. So they tried to soften the blow, I think, by just having like the thermal imaging, but still you knew what happened. And it was rare. It's rare that a movie does that for sure. You can kill legions of people, have all these like awful rape scenes, but you don't kill a dog.
You don't kill a dog.
That was surprising. My clue was the super, I don't even know if it's a real song, maybe it was, but when after he cracks the reversion and he's driving in with his Porsche and he's singing along to some song where it said, "You were made to die, but I was made to fly." It was such like a 2000s, just awful song that seemed like it could have been popular on the radio back then, but it was just like, oh, the lyrics, "You were made to die, but I was made to fly," seems like he thinks he's above others.
Yeah, that's also just a terrible song, even just putting aside the lyrics. So it's like the fact that he not only likes it, but knows all the words, and he probably listens to this to and from work every single day.
Yep.
There's something wrong with his brain.
Absolutely. Well, he thinks he's God. That's probably part of it.
I guess that's part of it, yeah.
All right. What's your one change to be a blockbuster?
So I kind of, and this is almost weird to say, but I kind of wish they leaned into the creepiness even more.
Oh wow!
Like, I thought as we chatted about in the draft, I thought those point of view scenes were so good. I just wanted a little bit more of that, just because I thought that eeriness, that just awful feeling that you got from watching that was a little bit rare in movies, just because of how uncomfortable I was watching that. And it kind of, it's rare when you're watching a movie and you're like, wow, I feel something just terrible here that I don't usually feel when watching a movie. But I thought that was an interesting way to do things. And I thought they could also, it wouldn't have to necessarily be the super rapey, creepy part of this, but like maybe just some more like him playing some practical jokes on people when he's invisible. I think that I could have seen more of the invisible stuff going on.
You dial it up to 10 right away, though, once he became invisible. There was no time for practical jokes. There's only time for groping and everything else awful that he does.
Right. Yeah. I guess if you started off with someone who's less of an asshole, maybe you get like a day of him just like, pulling people's chairs out from under them.
Oh, I think that's part of mine that I'm not going to choose, but almost did, was like having him have like an arc where he's like a good guy becoming bad, because at the end of the movie, I was still left with like, wait, so was it the power that he had being invisible and no one knew who it was, or was it the serum? I'm still not sure which it was. And even the Matt character, Josh Brolin, asked him that question, is like, is it the power or is it the serum? I'm still not quite sure, because when he looked in the mirror, he before he went across to the neighbor's house, their apartment, he's like, who's gonna know? And it didn't seem like there was logic there. And even when he was planning on killing everyone in the lab, once again, Mac's character was like, someone said like, he's nuts, and he's like, no, even worse, he's planned this. Like he's calculated. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was the serum or him? Because there was no real arc. He was just awful the whole time, and then he got this power, and he became more awful. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a bit of a cop-out, but I think it's probably a bit of both. I mean, I think we know from seeing the gorilla and some of the other animals that their aggressiveness was ramped up significantly the longer they were invisible. So that, I think that is part of it, but I think maybe it sort of amplifies your worst intentions or something like that. And we already know that this guy's just a jerk.
It's like if you ever hung out with like a bad drunk, they're like kind of a dick sometimes, like usually, and then they have some drinks and like, holy shit, I can't be around you. You're awful.
Right. All inhibitions are gone in the worst way possible.
Yeah, exactly. My actual choice is, I think this could have been a blockbuster if we heard the title line. Where's Hollow Man? Someone say Hollow Man once.
Right?
Wow, Sebastian's a hollow man. I don't know, something.
Or they could also just like, I think the point you're getting at is really that Hollow Man almost doesn't even fit. Like I feel like the title was like written in English, then translated to another language, then translated back to English, and that's how they ended up with Hollow Man.
You need some native speaker to be like, oh no, that just means, I know it doesn't translate right. It means
yeah.
Is it supposed to represent that he's hollow inside? There's no way that was the intent.
There's no way that was the intent, but like, I guess, that's like the only thing that makes any sense.
Just say like, oh, that you look, it doesn't even make sense to call him hollow, because you would see the outside. But yeah, so I'll just go with no title line because I think they're probably ashamed a little bit of the title.
Or maybe they didn't even know what the title was the entire time they were making a movie, and they were like, Hollow Man. It was like the day before they had to like print the poster or something.
Or yeah, it's like Family Feud when the buzzer's coming and you go like Invisible Man, it beeps, and you're like Hollow Man, 2 points.
That's a great call.
What do we got next here?
Spinoffs.
Spinoff ideas. I'll go first because mine isn't very good, but Elizabeth Shue, her character was pretty much down with all of this and even started off before everything happened, still kind of flirting with Sebastian. Like, she's not a victim in this for most of the movie. She's complicit and she's part of this whole thing. I think she takes the serum and we have ourselves a Hollow Woman.
That would be great because I think it would also give us a chance to get to know that character a little more because as you say, she kind of just goes along with everything in this film. And I think it's Elizabeth Shue. Like she can carry a role here. And I think that she could absolutely be the lead there. And she kind of was the lead. I think in all the marketing for this film, it was Elizabeth Shue in Hollow Man, like with Kevin Bacon. Like she was the lead.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like her and Bacon were like the leads, and then Brolin was the
It's like the shirtless guy.
Yeah, the shirtless guy. A very attractive team of bunker scientists.
Yeah. I don't know that many scientists, but I'd be surprised if I walked into a government lab and that's who was there. So I got one, and this one, I almost felt like they were teeing it up. Maybe because the lab blew up, they couldn't do it. But the logical next step is the government gets a hold of this technology, makes a army of invisible soldiers. Boom. That's a summer blockbuster right there.
And I think you can even say Invisible Soldiers, right?
Right.
So if there was a movie that came out, Invisible Soldiers, how are you not seeing that movie?
Right. And I feel like that would be a big enough movie to get Paul Verhoeven back. Like he kind of went into exile after this film. Like I think this was his last American film that he ever made. But bring him back. Is he still alive? I don't even know.
I have no idea. We'll see.
Bring him back. Resuscitate him if he's dead. Let's make Invisible Soldiers. Let's make some money here.
If anyone's listening to this, I think we've come up with some gems. If anyone who is good at making movies, this might be the top of our movie ideas because Invisible Soldiers would just sell itself.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you'd have to get invisible guns, but I'm sure if they can turn a whole group of soldiers into invisible men, they could probably make weapons invisible.
And they'd have some cool scenes where they're like, oh, we ran out of the invisible guns. We have to use the old ones. And you see like all these guns popping along.
Yeah, they have to reach for their non-invisible knife.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you. What would be the first thing you would do if you were invisible?
Obviously that's a question that everyone who watches this movie asks themselves. That's like kind of the part of the fun of movies like this. You're just like, all right, well, this was like what the worst person in the world would do. But what would I do? Like, not the worst person in the world. And I kind of don't know, but I feel like I would do something just like kind of nerdy. Like I feel like I would go, I don't know if you ever watch How It's Made on, I don't know, Discovery Channel or whatever it is. And it's like, I feel like this is one of these like old school shows where there's not even really any dialogue. You just get to see how a bunch of stuff is made. And it's like in a factory. I'd want to like go behind the sscenes and like places I'm not allowed to go and just watch stuff getting made like on conveyor belts.
Go behind the curtain to see how things are actually done.
Yeah. I just want to like, that's exactly what it is. I want to go back and like, I want to know how the sausage is made.
I mean, you're just going to go learn. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Mine is I would go out more, including like I would go specifically to sporting events. So I would go and get in and no one would talk to me. Like I just went to the Celtics in San Fran, lose to Golden State. And there was just a bunch of obnoxious fans there. I wasn't even wearing Celtics colors, but I would love to be able to go to games. No one talks to me and I can find an empty seat, the closest empty seat to the court or to the ice or whatever, and sit in that seat. I would just go to events, get in the door and sit in the most amazing seats ever.
But like what happens when someone runs down with their like tray of beers into their seat and you're sitting in it. Are you just like,
no, you take the guy's arm next to you and you pick it up. He doesn't know you're there. You pick it up and you hit their tray and it's his fault. And it gives you time to get out of there. No one's going to think that there's an invisible guy there. They're going to blame someone else because they're typically a few drinks in anyway.
I feel like maybe your better bet would be just like go like stand like courtside, like under the rim or something, or like maybe just off, in front of a camera guy.
Well, I just stand like in the middle of the court and just get out of the way.
Right. You could like, if you go to a baseball game, you could like post up behind the umpire. You go wherever.
Yeah. You could just sit behind the umpire or sit out in the outfield.
Yeah, like why limit yourself to where normal, visible people can go? You can go anywhere.
Yeah, you just sit on the goalpost for a football game. Yep. Yeah, there'd be a lot of sports involved, apparently. My other question would be, how long have Linda and Sebastian been broken up?
It feels very fresh, doesn't it? I mean, it's there. It feels like it could have been very, very recent, and maybe that's part of why Kevin Bacon's character is so irritated, because she's just jumped in bed with Matt. But also, you don't know. Kevin Bacon also feels like a guy who would hold a grudge and is also just sort of very undateable because he's just a raging jerk. So it could have been like a year ago, and he's just.
I'm thinking a year and a half has gone by. Yeah, a year and a half has gone by. She's already with the next guy. She has no real emotional attachment to him anymore, but he's still pining for what he lost because he works with her every day. I don't think it was like her and Matt are. I don't know. They haven't just got together.
Do you think Matt was her rebound from him, or do you think there were some intervening relationships?
Absolute rebound, and she's not going to stick with Matt. Matt's kind of a dope. Like, he's not as good of a scientist. He can't think outside the box. Yeah, she has to save him all the time. I mean, he's ripped. He becomes Thanos, but that doesn't matter. But I think she's done with him in a little bit. She just got with somebody else at the same job.
You don't think they sort of form a bond when she stuck her fingers in his open wound for no real reason?
That was very questionable. Does this hurt? Yep, it looks like you're injured. All right.
Yeah, I think maybe once you've stuck your hand into someone's like body cavity, that might be mated for life. Yeah,
that's true. And she did find out though that no important organs were hit. Through doing I guess that finger probe. I'll go with a year and a half.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. I think you nailed that one.
All right, you want to get on to our next movie?
Yes. So this is our first disaster film, which is kind of shocking.
I can't believe it's taken so long.
Yeah, and this will be a good one because I think this was. There was a period where there was a few summers in a row where it felt like they just kept coming out with dueling disaster movies that were very similar to one another. And this is one of those dueling movies. So we are doing Dante's Peak, not Volcano, Dante's Peak.
Talk about dueling. I think they came out like on the same day.
Right? This movie's great. Can't wait to dive into it. Haven't seen it in forever. I think it is the better Volcano movie of the two of them.
I think so too, and it has Pierce Brosnan, so it definitely has to be the better of
right. You got a star there, so, and not like an ancient star, like because Volcano has Tommy Lee Jones, he's also a star.
Yeah, but he's been old for 70 years.
Right, he was born old.
All right, that was for a non-fun movie. That was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for Dante's Peak.
Same here.
All right, later.
Later.